All right, Jonny, chapter 9, we're in the conclusion, your path to predictable revenue. So in this chapter, you end out the book telling the story of you walking out of the parking lot that day, walking out of the building of the client you were working with. And the company you described, we find out now is, and you find out like several months after working with them, that they were days away from running out of cash when you first started working together. And obviously this story ends well and all is good. But what sales mistakes do organizations make that land them in that kind of situation that company was in when you first started working together?
Well, this was a really fun story to look back on and think about, because it really was one of the most, it was just a really serious moment where with the client, the client I'm referring to here, we had helped them achieve some crazy growth. And really they had seen the growth because they took what we did and executed it. What we'll see a lot of times in this situation is sales just hasn't been taken seriously, and sales call execution hasn't been focused on. And so you'll have a mixture of, maybe it's a sales leader that just isn't holding anyone accountable or isn't coaching. And so they're in charge of maybe the end of the month data, or they're in charge of all sorts of things, and they're just not holding anyone accountable. They're not coaching, they're not scoring, they're not saying, hey, there's a standard here and the standard has to be reached. And so when that happens, you end up with a sales team of just total lone wolves. And some people are doing great, most are not doing well, and there's just no accountability or guidance or support. And so everyone's doing things differently, which then leads to an over-reliance on the top reps. And so the company we're referring to here, I know they had one or two people that were doing a vast majority of the sales, even though they had a decent-sized sales team. And so then you're put in a really delicate situation where if you lose someone, you don't know how to replace them and level up. And then if a manager's not coaching or training or elevating the whole team, you've got dead weight in payroll and salaries and not so profitable salespeople, which is a really bad situation to be in. And that was almost tanking the whole company, because unless you're raising major investor capital or doing something to bring money in the door, sales, that is how everybody gets their paychecks. And so when that's not focused on, you run into scary stories.
Let's speak to the person who's listening to this and they don't feel that same sense of urgency. Maybe they don't feel, they're not days away from running out of cash, but they do sense that they have untapped potential within their team. What should they consider that might impact their sense of urgency?
I think that's the big piece there, is untapped potential. And maybe you're naturally a competitive person, or you just have a bit of a fire in your soul, or maybe it's a conviction from God. Literally anything could be stirring your mind or your heart to say we're just not reaching our potential, and that's wrong. I believe that's wrong, right? We should be striving for that. And so if you're in that position where maybe financially things are good, and even sales-wise, you're hitting enough, you're selling enough to where you're not redlining, nothing's scaring everybody, but you know in your heart you have untapped potential. I think that is something to listen to. And the thing that you should be thinking of is, well, the bridge selling system, one, it's a way to tap into that potential. And so if your close rates are low, your sales process is long, that's where you're gonna tap into the untapped potential there. Raise rates, raise your close rates, shorten sales cycles. So just for the sake of being as good as you can be, that's a reason to build this system out before you're down to your last dollar. Yeah. The other way I look at it is, it's almost like an insurance policy, because the framework, both on a strategic level and from a training standpoint, where we talked about new hire training earlier. Even some of the larger clients we've worked with, one of which was almost reaching 100 salespeople at this point. If all 100 of those salespeople were to quit tomorrow, I promise you that I wouldn't even be scared, and those sales leaders over there wouldn't even be scared, because the next question is just, well, how can we fill a classroom with 100 people? Because the system is such a strong foundation for replacing people who leave and training and leveling up, that it's well, yeah, my house isn't in a fire zone necessarily, but I'm still gonna have home insurance, because if something were to happen, we need to be protected. That's how I view the system, and the philosophy here is tapping into untapped potential, and then it's an insurance policy for if your best people leave.
Yeah, it's really powerful, really powerful. So you end the book by saying, telling your reader, now it's your move. So as listeners are listening to this or watching this, what is the one next thing that they could do today to move on this?
Well, if you haven't started yet, the one thing is start your baseline assessment, your baseline BridgeScore assessment. Go through, pick part of your team or your whole team and listen to 5, 10 first calls a pop, like we talked about earlier. That is that's my action item for everybody. So I would just say, right now, go to your calendar and block off half a day or block off a day or a couple hours to just start doing some scores. And that's where I would start now.
Okay, Jonny, so if somebody is listening to this, they heard that, here's your next move, go work on your baseline BridgeScore, do that assessment. But they're thinking to themselves, I don't want to do this by myself. We work with clients all the time. We've referenced that in these videos. Talk our viewer through, if somebody wanted to work with our team at BridgeSelling, what does that typically look like?
Yeah, well, you're not alone, reader, if you don't want to do this whole journey on your own. So you're not alone, and we'd love to work with you and would love to work with your organization. So we do that through a lot of ways. One is workshops, anything from half a day to multiple days. We can do virtual, we can do on-site, we can do a combination of things. So workshops and to help you roll this framework out or to help get your team talking about it or even just to wake them up to the methodology and get it going is an option. We also do baseline BridgeScore assessments. So if you don't have the bandwidth to go in and listen to a whole bunch of calls in your team, our team can do that for you and we can present some findings and we can walk you through what we see in those conversations. And by the end of that assessment, we usually have a bridge framework built with your magic pivots and everything you need to talk about rollout. That's the second way. And the third thing is just ongoing advisory. So once you go through those first couple steps, we're always there to support leaders through advising, coaching, help leaders implement the bridge framework a little bit more effectively. And those are the three big ways.
Awesome. Well, this has been a really fun series of conversations, and I hope our viewers have gotten good value out of it. Any final words to your readers?
I mean, just a big thank you to everyone who read the book. And so if you're at this point in the reader's guide, I assume that you've really gone through this and you found it helpful, and I'm grateful for your attention and your focus and your engagement with it. So Erin, thanks for walking us through these questions. To all the readers and people who helped with the book, thank you so much. And we're always here to help. So we're easy to find and get a hold of. Let us know how we can support you and be helpful.
Awesome. And if, as you start rolling it out and you see success in your company, we want to hear about it. Shoot us an email. We'd love to hear what kind of results you're getting as you implement the BridgeSelling framework at your company.